Today we are finding out how many potatoes you can grow in a 30 centimetre pot. Hi, my name is Jackie and welcome back to my channel. Now you may have seen my previous video where I posted about my issues with my potato plants. I will actually link this above. Now I was having some issues. The plants were coming through stunted not long after I planted them. They took a long time to actually germinate, and when they did come through they were clearly stunted. In that video I repotted one plant just to see how it would go, and then if it did well I would repot all of them. Well, spoiler alert, I repotted all of them because that plant did immediately improve. So I left one plant that I didn't because I just wanted to check. I just wanted to see what the difference was, and that one plant did much worse. I think maybe I got 3 potatoes out of that pot. It was definitely the potting mix. I thought it was all sorts of other things, but that was definitely my issue. Now, just to clarify exactly what I did in order to pot these into this size pot. So this is the size pot that I used. It's a 30 centimetre pot. I basically filled it halfway. I put in a small amount of soil, put in the seed potato, and then covered it by about this much. And so it maybe came up halfway, possibly a bit less. That's how I planted them. And I did the same when I repotted them. I didn't have a lot of soil in them. Once then they started to improve and the plants took off, I then put in more soil on top. I also had a lot of hay in the pots, more for moisture retention. So even in winter here, it does get quite warm. Yeah, I also had quite a lot of hay in there just from a moisture retention point of view, because they are relatively small pots. From my perspective, they do dry out very quickly in my climate. What I want to do now is actually show you harvesting out of one of the pots so that you can see how successful or not the process is. And then when I come back, I'm going to talk to you about what I've learned from this process this year. Okay, so this is what we got out of one pot. There's about 9 good-sized potatoes, and then there's a few quite small potatoes. But this is the size pot. It's a 30 centimetre pot. I have nothing to compare this to, so I'm not entirely sure whether it's a really good harvest or a mediocre harvest. I think there's a few things that would have made it better. I think possibly
ball growing.
More time in the soil while it was cooler would have been, we would have ended up with more potatoes. I think normally that these would be planted in March. As I said, these weren't planted until the end of April. With an extra 6 weeks, I think we would have ended up with more good-sized potatoes as a result. But I'm relatively pleased with that, considering that they pretty much looked after themselves. I thought that was pretty good. Okay, so there's 4 key things that I've learnt through this process. The first one being you can definitely grow potatoes in a 30 centimetre pot, which isn't a huge pot. It doesn't take a lot of potting mix. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is you can definitely repot a potato. I was a bit concerned when I repotted it that I had completely lost my chance, I guess, for potatoes this season, but they took off straight away after being repotted, and it all went really well. The third thing is that normal potting mix can definitely be used. I will experiment next year on having a few less nutrients to see whether they end up with less leaf and more potatoes, but yeah, at a pinch they can certainly be grown in normal potting mix. And the fourth thing is, it wasn't too late. End of April's not too late. maybe we could get more potatoes if they were planted earlier. 6 weeks earlier would have made, I'm sure it would have made all the difference. Because as soon as it got hot, we had quite a hot spell right at the start of spring. We had this stretch of a week where it just got really hot. It was over 30 degrees, which isn't hot for here, but it's certainly hot for the first 3 days of spring. So yeah, those plants immediately just fell in a heap. So yeah, a bit more growing time in the cool probably wouldn't have gone astray. So that is my potato experiment update. I hope you found this video helpful. Please comment below with your own experiences with potatoes. I'd love to hear, and I'd love to hear whether that is a good harvest from one potato plant. See you again soon. Bye now.